Maya Richardson had become an expert at being invisible. At 17 years old, she had perfected the art of blending into the background, of taking up as little space as possible in a world that seemed to have no room for her anyway. She wasn't bullied, wasn't particularly disliked. She was simply there. A face in the hallway, a name on the attendance sheet, a figure that drifted through the day like smoke. Every morning started the same way. Her alarm would go off at 6:15, and she'd lie there for a few minutes staring at the ceiling of her small bedroom, gathering the energy to face another day. Her mother would already be gone, having left for her nursing shift at 5:30. Her father would be in the shower, getting ready for his construction job. They'd pass like ships in the harbor of their small apartment, never quite docking long enough for real conversation. The hallways of Lincoln High School felt like a maze designed specifically to remind Maya of her solitude. Groups of friends clustered together, laughing at inside jokes she'd never understand. Couples walked hand in hand, lost in their own worlds. Even the loners seemed to have found each other, forming small tribes of misfits who at least had the comfort of shared outsider status. But Maya, she walked alone, her worn backpack heavy on her shoulders, her eyes fixed on the linoleum tiles beneath her feet. Lunch was the worst part of the day. The cafeteria was a social battlefield where allegiances were clear and territory was marked. Maya had tried in her freshman year to find a table where she belonged. She'd approached different groups with a tentative smile, only to be met with polite but distant responses. "Sorry, someone's sitting there. We're kind of in the middle of something." The rejections weren't cruel, but they were final. Eventually, she discovered the library, a quiet sanctuary where eating lunch alone looked intentional rather than pathetic. Mrs. Chen, the librarian, never asked questions. She'd simply nod when Maya came in, day after day, settling into the same corner chair with her brown bag lunch. Maya would eat slowly, making her sandwich and apple last the entire period, a book propped open in front of her. Sometimes she read the words. Sometimes she just stared at the pages, wondering how she'd become this person, this ghost who haunted her own life. Her home life wasn't bad exactly. Her parents worked hard, paid the bills, kept food on the table. But they were tired, always tired. Her mother picked up extra shifts when she could, trying to save for Maya's college fund. Her father's back ached from years of manual labor, and he spent most evenings in his recliner watching whatever was on TV. They loved her, Maya knew that. But love and connection weren't always the same thing. Her older brother Daniel had escaped to college 2 years ago, and he rarely came home now. When he did, he seemed like a stranger, full of stories about friends and parties and experiences that felt a million miles away from Maya's reality. He'd try to connect with her sometimes, asking about school and friends. But Maya learned quickly that fine and nothing much were answers that ended conversations faster, sparing them both the awkwardness of the truth. The loneliness had become so much a part of Maya that she barely noticed it anymore. It was like a constant low hum in the background of her life, white noise that she'd learned to tune out. She filled her time with homework, with reading novels about people whose lives were more interesting than hers, with scrolling through social media and watching other people live their lives. She told herself she was fine, that she preferred being alone, that other people were overrated anyway. But sometimes, late at night when the apartment was quiet and her parents were asleep, Maya would lie in bed and feel the weight of it all pressing down on her chest. She'd wonder what was wrong with her, why she couldn't seem to connect with people the way everyone else did. She'd scroll through Instagram, looking at photos of her classmates at parties and gatherings she'd never been invited to, and feel an ache so deep it scared her. Then she'd close the app, turn off her phone, and tell herself it didn't matter. It was a Tuesday afternoon in late October when something changed. Maya was walking home from school, taking her usual route through the neighborhood. The air had that crisp autumn feel, and leaves crunched under her feet as she walked. She had her earbuds in, listening to a playlist that matched her mood, lost in her own thoughts as always. She almost didn't notice the elderly woman at the bus stop. The woman was struggling with several grocery bags, trying to manage them while also leaning on a cane. One of the bags had tipped over and oranges were rolling across the sidewalk. The woman looked distressed, trying to bend down to retrieve them, but clearly in pain. Maya's first instinct was to keep walking. It's what she always did. Don't get involved. Don't draw attention. Stay invisible. Her feet kept moving forward, carrying her past the scene, but then something made her stop. She didn't know what it was exactly. Maybe it was the look of frustration on the woman's face. Maybe it was the way no one else was helping. People just walking around the scattered oranges like they were obstacles to avoid. Or maybe it was something deeper, some small voice inside her that was tired of being invisible even to herself. Maya pulled out her earbuds and turned around. "Do you need some help?" she heard herself say. The woman looked up, surprised. She was probably in her late 70s, with silver hair pulled back in a bun, and kind eyes that held both relief and gratitude. "Oh, would you? I'm sorry to be such trouble. These bags were heavier than I thought, and my hip isn't what it used to be." Maya gathered the oranges quickly, placing them back in the bag. She picked up the groceries, feeling the weight of them. "These are heavy. Where are you headed?" "Just 3 blocks that way," the woman said, pointing down the street. "But really, you don't have to." "It's okay," Maya said, and she meant it. "I'm going that way anyway." It wasn't entirely true, but it wasn't entirely false either. She could take a different route home. And for some reason she couldn't explain, she wanted to help. They walked slowly, the woman setting the pace with her cane. At first they were silent, but then the woman spoke. "I'm Eleanor Mitchell. I've lived in this neighborhood for 43 years. I'm Maya Richardson. We moved here about 5 years ago." "Maya," Eleanor repeated, smiling. "That's a beautiful name. Are you in school?" "Yeah, I'm a senior at Lincoln." "Oh, Lincoln. I taught English there for 30 years. Retired in 2005. It was a different place then, I imagine." They talked as they walked, and Maya found herself actually enjoying the conversation. Eleanor asked questions that seemed genuinely interested in the answers. She listened when Maya spoke. Really listened, not just waiting for her turn to talk. It felt strange and wonderful at the same time. Eleanor's apartment building was modest but well-maintained, with a small garden out front where the last of the season's flowers were still blooming. Maya carried the bags up the stairs to the second floor, where Eleanor unlocked the door to apartment 2B. "Would you like to come in for a moment?" Eleanor asked. "I'd like to thank you properly. I have fresh lemonade." Maya knew she should probably just go home, but home was an empty apartment where she'd spend the evening alone anyway, doing homework and scrolling through her phone. And there was something about Eleanor that made her feel less invisible than she had in a long time. "Sure," Maya said, "for a minute." Eleanor's apartment was cozy and filled with life. Books lined the shelves, photographs covered the walls, and plants thrived in every sunny spot. It felt warm in a way that had nothing to do with temperature. Maya found herself looking around with genuine curiosity. "Sit, please," Eleanor said, gesturing to a comfortable-looking armchair. "Make yourself at home." As Maya sat down and Eleanor went to get the lemonade, she noticed a photograph on the side table. A younger Eleanor stood next to a handsome man in a military uniform, both of them beaming at the camera. "That's my Robert," Eleanor said, returning with 2 glasses. "We were married for 48 years before he passed. 6 years ago now." "I'm sorry," Maya said softly. "Thank you, dear. I miss him every day, but I have so many beautiful memories." Eleanor settled into the chair across from Maya. "Do you live nearby?" "About 6 blocks away. The Riverside Apartments." "Oh, I know those. Are you there with your family?" "Yeah, my parents. My brother's away at college. They talked for almost an hour." Eleanor told stories about teaching, about her life with Robert, about the neighborhood and how it had changed over the years. Maya found herself opening up in ways she rarely did, talking about school and her plans for college, even admitting that she wasn't sure what she wanted to do with her life yet. When Maya finally said she needed to get home, Eleanor walked her to the door. "Thank you again for your help today, Maya. You're a kind young woman." "It was nothing, really." "It wasn't nothing to me," Eleanor said firmly. "And I hope you'll visit again. I don't get many visitors these days, and I've enjoyed our conversation very much." Maya felt a warmth spread through her chest. "I'd like that." As Maya walked home, something felt different. The world looked the same, the streets were the same, but something inside her had shifted. For the first time in longer than she could remember, she felt like she'd actually connected with another person, not just exchanged pleasantries or gone through the motions, but really connected. That night at dinner, her father asked his usual question, "How was school?" Usually, Maya would give her usual answer, "Fine," But tonight she said something different. It was okay. But after school I helped this woman carry her groceries home. Her name's Eleanor. She used to teach at my school. Her mother looked up from her plate, surprised by the longer than usual response. That was nice of you, honey. She invited me to visit again, Maya continued. I think I might. That's wonderful, her mother said, and she smiled. It was a real smile, the kind Maya hadn't seen on her mother's tired face in a while. Later, lying in bed, Maya thought about the day. She thought about how easy it would have been to just keep walking, to stay in her bubble of isolation. She thought about Eleanor's apartment, warm and full of life even though she lived alone. She thought about how good it felt to be seen, to be thanked, to matter to someone, even for something small. For the first time in years, Maya fell asleep feeling like maybe, just maybe, things could be different. Maya knocked on Eleanor's door the following Thursday afternoon, her heart beating a little faster than usual. She'd thought about visiting all week, but had talked herself out of it several times. What if Eleanor had just been being polite? What if she didn't actually want Maya to come back? What if it was weird for a teenager to be friends with someone in their 70s, but something stronger than her doubts had pushed her to return? Maybe it was the memory of how seen she'd felt in Eleanor's apartment. Maybe it was the loneliness that had become too heavy to carry alone. Maybe it was just that, for once, she wanted to try. Eleanor opened the door and her face lit up with genuine delight. Maya, oh, I'm so glad you came. Come in, come in. The warmth in Eleanor's voice dissolved Maya's anxiety instantly. She stepped inside and the cozy apartment wrapped around her like a hug. I wasn't sure if I should come, Maya admitted, standing awkwardly by the door. Nonsense. I told you I hoped you'd visit, and I meant it. Eleanor gestured toward the kitchen. I was just about to make some tea. Do you like tea? I've never really had it much, Maya said honestly. Well, then it's time you learned. Come, I'll teach you. In Eleanor's small kitchen, Maya watched as the older woman moved with practiced grace despite her cane, filling a kettle, pulling out a tin of loose-leaf tea, arranging cookies on a plate. There was something meditative about the process, something that made Maya's always racing thoughts slow down. Tea is about patience, Eleanor explained, as they waited for the water to boil. You can't rush it. The water has to be the right temperature. The leaves need time to steep. It's a ritual, really. A moment of peace in a chaotic world. They settled in the living room with their tea, and Eleanor began asking Maya about her week. Not the surface level how was school that required a one-word answer, but real questions. What was she reading? What did she think about it? What subjects did she like? What made her nervous about the future? Maya found herself talking more than she had in months, maybe years. With Eleanor, there was no judgment, no expectation to be anyone other than who she was. Eleanor listened like Maya's words mattered, like her thoughts and feelings were valuable. I don't really have friends at school, Maya admitted during a lull in the conversation. The words tumbled out before she could stop them. I mean, people are nice enough, but I don't really belong anywhere. Eleanor nodded slowly, her eyes soft with understanding. Loneliness is a heavy thing to carry, especially when you're young and it feels like everyone else has figured out something you haven't. Exactly, Maya said, relief flooding through her. Someone understood. I keep thinking something's wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you, dear. Sometimes people just need time to find their tribe. And sometimes, Eleanor paused, taking a sip of her tea, we have to be brave enough to reach out first. Like you did when you helped me with my groceries. That took courage. It didn't feel like courage. It just felt like, I don't know, like I couldn't not do it. That's the best kind of courage, Eleanor said, the kind that comes from the heart. Over the next few weeks, Maya's visits to Eleanor's apartment became a regular part of her routine. She'd stop by twice a week after school, and each visit revealed something new. Eleanor taught her to bake bread from scratch, her hands guiding Maya's through the kneading process, explaining how you could feel when the dough was just right. She showed Maya photo albums filled with decades of memories, each picture a story waiting to be told. Through these stories, Maya learned about love and loss, about resilience and joy. Eleanor talked about teaching, about the students who'd touched her life, about the challenges and rewards of dedicating yourself to helping young people learn. She talked about Robert, her late husband, with such vivid detail that Maya felt like she knew him too. She talked about traveling, about raising her daughter who now lived across the country, about the garden she used to keep before her hip started giving her trouble. But Eleanor also asked Maya about her life, her dreams, her fears. She asked about Maya's parents, and Maya found herself opening up about the distance she felt from them, how they worked so hard but seemed to have so little energy left for connection. They sound like good people doing their best, Eleanor observed. Sometimes the weight of providing makes it hard to see what else is needed. But that doesn't mean they don't love you deeply. I know they love me, Maya said. I just wish, I don't know. I wish we talked more. Really talked? Have you tried talking to them? Really talking? Maya shook her head. I wouldn't know where to start. Start small, Eleanor suggested. Share one real thing. Not fine or nothing. One real thing about your day, your thoughts, your life. See what happens. That evening, when Maya's mother came home from her shift exhausted and ready to collapse on the couch, Maya made a decision. Mom, she said, following her mother into the kitchen. Can I help you make dinner? Her mother looked surprised. You want to help? Yeah, and maybe we could talk? Something shifted in her mother's face, a softening around the eyes. I'd like that, honey. As they chopped vegetables together, Maya told her mother about Eleanor, about their visits, about learning to make bread. She talked about school, but not just the usual. It was fine. She talked about her English class, about a poem they'd read that she'd actually connected with, about how she was thinking of applying to colleges with good writing programs. Her mother listened, really listened, and shared things too. About her day at the hospital, about a patient who'd made her laugh, about how proud she was of Maya even though she didn't say it enough. It wasn't a perfect conversation. There were still awkward pauses and moments when neither knew quite what to say, but it was real, and it was a start. The change in Maya wasn't dramatic or sudden. It was gradual, like the slow lightening of the sky before dawn. But it was happening. She walked through the school hallways with her head up a little more. She made eye contact with people sometimes. She even smiled at a few classmates, surprised when they smiled back. One day in English class, the teacher asked them to partner up for a project. Maya's stomach clenched with the familiar anxiety of this moment. The scramble to find a partner while trying not to look desperate. She noticed a girl named Zara sitting 2 rows over, also looking uncomfortable. Zara was quiet, kept to herself, wore hijab and always had a book with her. Maya had seen her eating lunch alone in the courtyard sometimes. Before she could talk herself out of it, Maya gathered her courage and approached Zara's desk. Do you have a partner yet? Maya asked, her voice only shaking a little. Zara looked up, surprise flickering across her face. No, would you want to work together? Yeah, Maya said, and she meant it. I would. They met after school in the library to start working on the project. At first, they were both shy, sticking to talking about the assignment. But gradually, they began to talk about other things. Zara mentioned a book she was reading, and Maya had read it too. They discovered they both loved the same author, had the same favorite character, had both cried at the ending. I thought I was the only one who cried, Zara admitted with a small laugh. Me too, Maya said. Everyone I know thinks that book is boring, right? Zara's eyes lit up. They don't get it. They don't understand how beautiful it is. They talked for 2 hours, way longer than the project required. When Maya finally left the library, she felt something unfamiliar bubbling in her chest. It took her a moment to recognize it. Happiness. She went straight to Eleanor's apartment, bursting with the need to share this small miracle. I made a friend, Maya announced as soon as Eleanor opened the door. I think I did. We talked for 2 hours about books and it was amazing and she's really nice and I think maybe we're actually friends? Eleanor pulled her into a hug, laughing. Of course you did. I knew you would. How did you know? Because you're wonderful, Maya. You were just keeping all that wonderful hidden away. I'm glad you're starting to let it out. Over the following weeks, Maya and Zara's friendship grew. They ate lunch together sometimes, studied together, texted each other funny things they saw during the day. It wasn't a big, dramatic friendship with a huge social circle and constant plans. It was quiet and comfortable, but it was real. Maya also started noticing other people in a way she hadn't before. She noticed the single dad in apartment 3A of her building. Always rushing, always stressed, trying to manage 3 kids on his own. She noticed how the neighbor's elderly cat sat in the window all day, lonely while its owner was at work. She noticed the freshman at school who stood by his locker looking lost during passing period. One evening, she saw the single dad, Mr. Chen, juggling grocery bags and trying to unlock his door while his youngest child cried in his arms. Without thinking, Maya rushed over. "Here, let me help," she said, taking the grocery bags. Mr. Chen looked at her with such gratitude it almost hurt. "Thank you so much. It's been one of those days. I can watch the kids sometime if you need," Maya heard herself offer. "I'm in 2C, I'm home most afternoons." "Really? That would be incredible. I have a job interview next week and I've been worried about childcare." "Just knock on my door," Maya said. "I'm happy to help." When she told Eleanor about it during her next visit, the older woman smiled knowingly. "You're discovering something important," Eleanor said. "When we're wrapped up in our own loneliness, we can't see anyone else's. But when we start reaching out, when we start caring for others, suddenly the whole world opens up. We realize we're all connected, all struggling, all needing each other." "Is that what happened to you?" Maya asked. "When you were teaching?" "Yes, exactly. I was shy when I was young. Hard to believe now, I know, but I was. Teaching forced me out of my shell. Every student who walked into my classroom needed something from me, and that need made me brave. It made me bigger than my fears." Maya thought about that as she walked home. She thought about how helping Eleanor with her groceries had somehow set off a chain reaction. How that one small choice to care had led to friendship with Eleanor, which had given her courage to talk to Zara, which had made her notice Mr. Chen's struggle, which was making her see the world differently. She wasn't invisible anymore. Not because other people had suddenly started seeing her, but because she had stopped trying to be invisible. She was showing up, reaching out, caring, and in caring for others, she was somehow learning to care for herself too. That night, Maya didn't scroll through Instagram feeling sorry for herself. Instead, she texted Zara a funny meme, called Eleanor to say goodnight, and then sat with her parents to watch a movie together. When her mother took her hand during a sad part, Maya squeezed back, grateful for this small gesture of connection. The loneliness wasn't completely gone. It still crept in sometimes, especially late at night, but it was different now. It was softer, easier to bear because Maya knew she wasn't alone in being lonely. And she knew that reaching out, caring, trying, that was the antidote she'd been looking for all along. Maya babysat for Mr. Chen's 3 kids on a Tuesday evening while he went to his job interview. She'd been nervous at first, worried she wouldn't know what to do, but the kids were sweet and excited to have someone new to play with. 6-year-old Emma wanted to show Maya every single one of her drawings. 4-year-old Lucas needed help building a block tower that kept falling down. And 2-year-old Sophie just wanted to be held and sung to before bedtime. When Mr. Chen came home 2 hours later, his face was bright with hope. "I think it went well," he told Maya, pulling out his wallet to pay her. "I don't want money," Maya said quickly. "Really, it's okay. I was happy to help." Mr. Chen looked like he might cry. "You have no idea how much this means to me. Since my wife passed, I've been struggling to keep everything together. People like you make all the difference." After he said that, Maya walked back to her apartment with a fullness in her chest she'd never felt before. She'd made a difference. She'd actually mattered to someone's day, someone's life. Word traveled fast in the apartment building. Within a week, Mrs. Patel from 1B knocked on Maya's door, asking if she could help her figure out how to video call her grandson in California. Then Mr. Rodriguez from 3F asked if she'd mind checking in on his elderly mother while he was at work, just to make sure she'd eaten lunch and taken her medication. Each request was small, manageable, but together they were weaving Maya into the fabric of her community in a way she'd never experienced. At school, things were changing too. Maya and Zara had become close friends, the kind who could sit in comfortable silence or talk for hours about everything and nothing. During lunch one day, Zara mentioned that she'd been wanting to join the school's book club, but was too nervous to go alone. "I'll go with you," Maya offered without hesitation. "Really?" Zara's face lit up. "You'd do that?" "Of course. It actually sounds fun." The book club met every Thursday after school in Ms. Harrison's classroom. There were only 5 other students there, a mix of grades and personalities, but they all loved reading with an intensity that made Maya feel instantly at home. They were discussing a novel about a girl finding her place in a new country, and the conversation was passionate and deep. Maya found herself sharing thoughts she didn't even know she had, and people listened. They built on her ideas, challenged them respectfully, made her think harder and deeper. After the meeting, a junior named Marcus approached her. "You had some really interesting insights about the symbolism of the garden. Are you in AP English?" "Just regular English," Maya said. "You should consider AP next semester. You've got the mind for it." The compliment glowed inside her for days. Eleanor noticed the change in Maya during one of their regular visits. "You're blooming," she said simply, handing Maya a cup of tea. "Blooming?" Maya laughed. "Like a flower that's finally getting enough sunlight. I can see it in how you carry yourself, how you talk. You're coming alive, dear." Maya settled into her usual chair, cradling the warm mug. "I feel different, like I'm part of things now instead of just watching from the outside." "That's because you chose to step in," Eleanor said. "Most people wait to be invited. You created your own invitations." "I learned that from you," Maya admitted. "You invited me in when I helped with your groceries. You made me feel like I mattered. You did matter. You do matter. I hope you're starting to believe that." During that visit, Eleanor mentioned that she used to volunteer at the community center before her hip got bad. "They have a senior lunch program there every Wednesday," she explained. "I miss going. I miss seeing my friends, being part of that community." "Is it far?" Maya asked. "About 6 blocks. Walking distance when I was more mobile, but now—" Eleanor trailed off, a sadness in her eyes. "What if I came with you?" Maya suggested. "We could take the bus, or I could ask my dad to drive us." Eleanor's eyes widened. "You'd do that? Give up your Wednesday afternoons?" "I'd like to," Maya said honestly. "I want to meet your friends. And maybe I could help out there too." The following Wednesday, Maya's father drove them to the community center. He seemed surprised but pleased that his daughter was spending time with an elderly neighbor, helping her stay connected to her community. "You're a good kid, Maya," he said as he dropped them off. "Your mother and I are proud of you." The words were simple, but they meant everything. Maya couldn't remember the last time her father had said he was proud of her. The community center was a modest building with cheerful yellow walls and a garden out front. Inside, the lunch program was in full swing. About 20 seniors sat at tables, eating, laughing, playing cards. When Eleanor walked in with Maya, several people called out greetings. "Eleanor, we've missed you." "Who's this lovely young lady?" Eleanor introduced Maya to everyone, and Maya found herself surrounded by warm, curious people who asked her questions and told her stories. Mrs. Washington had been a jazz singer in her youth. Mr. Torres had fought in the Korean War. Ms. Chen, no relation to Mr. Chen from Maya's building, had immigrated from Taiwan 50 years ago and still made the best dumplings in the city. The program coordinator, a kind woman named Janet, approached Maya. "Are you here just to visit? Or would you be interested in volunteering?" "Volunteering?" Maya repeated. "We're always looking for young people to help out, serving lunch, spending time with the seniors, helping with technology. Many of them want to learn how to use smartphones and computers but don't have anyone to teach them." "I'd love to," Maya said, surprising herself with how much she meant it. She started volunteering every Wednesday after school. She'd serve lunch, clean up, and then spend an hour teaching seniors how to use their phones. Mr. Lopez wanted to learn how to text his grandchildren. Mrs. Kim wanted to figure out Facebook so she could see photos of her family in Korea. Ms. Anderson just wanted someone to show her how to play solitaire on her tablet. Each lesson was punctuated with stories and laughter. The seniors treated Maya like she was their own grandchild, offering her cookies they'd baked, asking about school, giving her advice about life. Their gratitude for such simple help was overwhelming. "You're a natural at this," Janet told Maya one afternoon. "Have you ever thought about social work or community organizing as a career?" Maya hadn't, but the idea took root in her mind. Maybe there was a future in helping people, in building community and making sure no one felt as alone as she'd once felt. At school, Maya's growing confidence started showing in other ways. In English class, when Mrs. Patterson asked for volunteers to read their essays aloud, Maya raised her hand. Her heart pounded as she walked to the front of the class, but she read her piece about loneliness and connection, about how one small act of kindness could change everything. When she finished, the classroom was quiet for a moment. Then Zara started clapping and others joined in. Mrs. Patterson had tears in her eyes. "That was beautiful, Maya," she said. "Truly beautiful." You have a gift for expressing deep truths in accessible ways. After class, 3 different students told Maya they'd felt the same way, that her essay had put words to feelings they'd had but couldn't express. A girl named Jessica, one of the popular kids Maya had always assumed wouldn't give her the time of day, stopped her in the hallway. "Hey, Maya, I just wanted to say that your essay really touched me. I've been feeling really lonely lately, even though I'm always around people. And your words helped me understand that I'm not crazy for feeling that way." Maya didn't know what to say. She'd never imagined her experience could resonate with someone like Jessica, someone who seemed to have it all together. "You're not crazy," Maya finally said, "and you're not alone." Jessica smiled, and for a moment they were just 2 people who understood each other. Maya's phone started buzzing more frequently. Zara texting her memes and book recommendations. Marcus from book club asking if she wanted to study together. Mr. Chen asking if she could babysit Friday night. Eleanor sending her photos of the bread she'd baked, using the recipe they'd made together. Mrs. Washington from the community center wanting to know if Maya could help her grandson with his college application essay. The Railway. Silence of her old life was being replaced by a symphony of connections, and Maya was learning to be the person others reached out to. The person who showed up, the person who cared. One Saturday, her mother had a rare day off, and Maya suggested they spend it together. They went to the farmer's market, something they hadn't done in years. They walked slowly through the stalls, sampling fruit, smelling flowers, talking about everything and nothing. Her mother told her stories about her own childhood, about dreams she'd had before life got so busy and complicated. "I want you to know," her mother said as they sat on a bench eating pastries, "that I see the change in you. You seem happier, more present, and it makes me want to be more present too." "Eleanor taught me something," Maya said. "She taught me that connection requires courage. We have to be willing to reach out, to be vulnerable, to care about people even when it's hard." Her mother took her hand. "When did you get so wise?" "I learned from a very wise woman," Maya smiled. That evening, Maya's parents suggested a family dinner with Daniel, who was coming home for the weekend. When her brother arrived, Maya actually felt excited to see him instead of anxious about the awkward small talk they'd have to endure. Over dinner, she told him about Eleanor, about the community center, about her friendship with Zara, and her newfound place in the book club. Daniel listened with genuine interest, and then he surprised her. "I've been lonely at college," he admitted. "I know it doesn't seem like it from the outside, but I've been struggling to find real friends, people I can actually talk to about real things. Hearing about what you're doing makes me realize I need to be braver about reaching out too." Their father cleared his throat, emotion thickening his voice. "I'm proud of both of you, and I'm sorry if I've been distant. This job wears me down, but that's not an excuse. I want to do better." "We all want to do better," their mother added. "Maybe we can start by having dinner together like this more often. Really talking, really being together." They all agreed, and as Maya looked around the table at her family, really seeing them and being seen by them, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. She thought about the day she'd almost walked past Eleanor at the bus stop. How easy it would have been to keep her head down and her earbuds in and her heart closed. That one choice to stop, to see, to care had changed everything. Later that night, Maya received a text from Zara. "Thank you for being my friend. I was so lonely before I met you." Maya smiled and typed back, "Thank you for being mine. We found each other." And that, Maya thought as she got ready for bed, was the truth of it. People needed each other. Loneliness wasn't a personal failure or a character flaw. It was just what happened when people forgot to reach out, forgot to care, forgot that everyone was struggling with something. She'd found her purpose, and it was beautifully simple. Show up, care deeply, help where she could, and trust that those small acts of connection would ripple outward in ways she couldn't even imagine. As she drifted off to sleep, Maya thought about all the people she'd connected with, all the lives that had touched hers. Eleanor, Zara, Mr. Chen and his kids, the seniors at the community center, Marcus, even Jessica. Each connection was a thread, and together they were weaving a safety net that caught them all when they stumbled. She wasn't invisible anymore. She was part of something bigger than herself, and it was more beautiful than she'd ever dreamed possible. It was a cold February morning when Maya's phone rang at 6 a.m. She fumbled for it in the darkness, her heart already racing. "Calls this early were never good news, Maya?" It was Eleanor's daughter, Catherine, and her voice was shaking. I'm so sorry to call you like this, but Mom fell last night. She's in the hospital. She broke her hip. Maya sat up straight, suddenly wide awake. Is she okay? Which hospital? St. Mary's. She's going to need surgery. They're taking her in this afternoon. She was asking for you. I'll be there as soon as I can, Maya promised. She threw on clothes and ran to her parents' room, waking them with the news. Her mother, despite having just worked a 12-hour shift, immediately offered to drive her to the hospital. Eleanor looked small in the hospital bed, her usually vibrant presence diminished by pain and fear. But when she saw Maya, her face brightened. There's my girl, Eleanor said weakly, reaching out her hand. Maya took it, fighting back tears. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Catherine was there too, a woman in her mid-40s who looked exhausted and worried. She thanked Maya for coming, explaining that she'd flown in from Seattle overnight but would need to fly back in a few days for work. Mom talks about you all the time, Catherine told Maya quietly while Eleanor dozed. You've become so important to her. I can't thank you enough for being in her life. Over the next few days, Maya spent every free moment at the hospital. She'd go to school, then head straight to St. Mary's, doing her homework in the uncomfortable chair beside Eleanor's bed. She held Eleanor's hand through the pain, read to her when she couldn't sleep, and advocated with the nurses when Eleanor was too weak to speak up for herself. The surgery went well, but recovery would be long and difficult. Eleanor would need weeks of physical therapy and care before she could go home. Catherine had to return to Seattle, her own family needing her, and she left with visible guilt and worry. I'll look after her, Maya promised. I'll make sure she's okay. But juggling everything was harder than Maya had anticipated. School, homework, volunteering at the community center, helping Mr. Chen with his kids, and now daily hospital visits. The hours started blurring together. Maya found herself staying up until midnight to finish assignments, then dragging herself through the next day exhausted. Her teachers noticed. Mrs. Patterson pulled her aside after class one day. Maya, your last 2 essays have been late and your quiz scores are dropping. Is everything all right? Maya felt tears prick her eyes. My friend Eleanor is in the hospital. She broke her hip. I've been trying to visit her every day, and I'm still volunteering at the community center and helping in my building, and You're trying to do too much, Mrs. Patterson said gently. I understand wanting to help, but you can't pour from an empty cup. That's what Eleanor always says, Maya whispered. She sounds wise. Maybe you should listen to her. But Maya didn't know how to listen. That weekend, when she was supposed to be studying for her history midterm, Mrs. Washington called from the community center. Her grandson needed help with his college essay, and could Maya spare an hour? Then Mr. Chen texted asking if she could babysit that evening because he had to work late. Then the hospital called saying Eleanor had had a rough night and was asking for her. Maya said yes to everything. She always said yes. How could she say no when people needed her? By Sunday night, she hadn't studied at all. She failed her history midterm on Monday, the first test she'd ever failed in her life. She was so tired she could barely keep her eyes open in class. At lunch, even Zara noticed. You look exhausted, Zara said with concern. Are you sleeping? Not much, Maya admitted. There's just so much to do. Maybe you need to do less, Zara suggested carefully. But Maya couldn't imagine doing less. The community center needed her. Mr. Chen's kids needed her. Eleanor definitely needed her. If she stepped back, who would fill that space? Who would make sure everyone was okay? That evening at the hospital, Eleanor was having a particularly hard day. The pain medication wasn't working well, and she was frustrated with her lack of mobility. Maya tried to comfort her, but she was so tired herself that she couldn't find the right words. She just sat there holding Eleanor's hand, feeling useless and overwhelmed. You look terrible, dear, Eleanor said suddenly, studying Maya's face. When's the last time you slept a full night? I'm fine, Maya lied. Maya Richardson, I've been a teacher for 30 years. I know when a young person is running themselves into the ground. Eleanor squeezed her hand weakly. What's going on? And then it all came spilling out. The failed test, the late assignments, the exhaustion, the constant feeling that she wasn't doing enough no matter how much she did. The fear that if she said no to anyone, she'd go back to being the lonely, invisible girl she'd been before. Oh, sweetheart, Eleanor said, and there were tears in her eyes now too. You've learned to care for others, which is beautiful, but you haven't learned to care for yourself, and that's just as important. But people need me, Maya protested. If I say no, I'm letting them down. If you burn yourself out, you're letting everyone down, including yourself, Eleanor said firmly. Listen to me carefully. You cannot help anyone if you destroy yourself in the process. Caring for others has to include caring for yourself, or it's not sustainable. I don't know how to say no, Maya admitted, her voice breaking. What if people get mad? What if they don't need me anymore? What if I end up alone again? Eleanor pulled Maya closer with her good arm. Real relationships don't fall apart when you set boundaries. If someone only values you for what you can do for them, that's not a real relationship. The people who truly care about you will understand when you need to take care of yourself. Maya cried then. Really cried, all the exhaustion and pressure and fear pouring out. Eleanor held her as best she could, stroking her hair, murmuring comfort. You matter, Maya, Eleanor said softly. Not because of what you do for others. You matter because you exist. You don't have to earn your worth by helping everyone. Your worth is inherent. Those words sank into Maya's heart like stones into water, creating ripples that reached places she didn't even know were hurting. The next day, Maya did something that terrified her. She started saying no. When Mrs. Washington called asking for help with her grandson's essay, Maya said gently, I'm sorry, but I can't this week. I'm behind on my own schoolwork. Can we schedule something for next week instead? There was a pause, and Maya braced herself for disappointment or anger. Instead, Mrs. Washington said, Of course, honey. I should have thought about your schedule. Next week works perfectly. When Mr. Chen asked if she could babysit Friday night, Maya suggested he try the teenage girl in 4B who'd mentioned looking for babysitting work. I need to focus on school right now, she explained. But Emma would be great with your kids. Mr. Chen was understanding. Thank you for the recommendation. And Maya, thank you for everything you've done for us. You've been a lifesaver. Don't feel bad about taking care of yourself. At the community center, Maya talked to Janet about reducing her volunteer hours. I want to keep helping, she explained, but I need to cut back to every other week until things settle down. Janet smiled warmly. That's very mature of you. We appreciate everything you do, but we don't want you to sacrifice your education or health. Balance is important. Even with Zara, Maya had to set a boundary. When Zara asked if she wanted to hang out on Sunday, Maya said, I really need this weekend to catch up on sleep and homework. Can we do something next weekend instead? Zara hugged her. Of course. Take care of yourself, okay? I'll still be here. And she was. They all were. Maya's fear that setting boundaries would make people disappear proved unfounded. If anything, people seemed to respect her more for knowing her limits and communicating them clearly. Maya spent that weekend catching up on schoolwork, sleeping 10 hours each night and having quiet dinners with her parents. She still visited Eleanor, but only once instead of every day, and she didn't stay as long. She used the time she'd freed up to take care of herself, exercising, reading for pleasure, taking actual breaks instead of filling every moment with productivity. Slowly, she started to feel like herself again. Not the isolated, lonely version of herself from months ago, but not the exhausted, overwhelmed version either. A new version, connected but boundaried, caring but not self-sacrificing, present but not burned out. At her next visit, Eleanor looked better too. Physical therapy was hard, but she was making progress, and she could see the change in Maya. There's my girl, Eleanor said, and this time there was pride in her voice. You're learning one of life's hardest lessons, that you can care deeply about others while also caring deeply about yourself. That's the key to a sustainable life of service and connection. It's harder than I thought it would be, Maya admitted. Saying no feels selfish sometimes. It's not selfish. It's self-preservation, and there's a difference. Eleanor shifted in her bed, wincing slightly. You know what I've realized lying here? I've had to accept help. I've had to let people care for me without being able to give anything back in return. And that's taught me that my value isn't in what I can do for others either. We're all worthy of love and care just by being human. You've given me so much, though, Maya said. You changed my life. And you changed mine, Eleanor replied. But that's not why we matter to each other. We matter because we see each other, truly see each other. The doing is just an expression of the being. Maya sat with those words, feeling their truth settle into her bones. She'd thought that to be worthy of connection, she had to be useful. to always be helping, to never say no. But real connection wasn't transactional. It was about showing up as a whole person, with needs and limits and boundaries, and trusting that people would still care. She'd learned to see others, to notice their needs, to offer help. Now she was learning to let herself be seen, to acknowledge her own needs, to accept help. Both lessons were part of the same truth. We're all human, we're all struggling, and we're all worthy of care, including from ourselves. As Maya walked out of the hospital that evening, she felt lighter than she had in weeks. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, and for the first time in a while, she stopped to actually look at it. She took a deep breath of cold winter air and felt gratitude wash over her. She was learning to live in balance, to care without burning out, to give without depleting herself. It wasn't perfect, and she knew she'd stumble sometimes. But she was on the right path, guided by Eleanor's wisdom and her own hard-won understanding. The journey from loneliness to connection had taught her to see others. The journey from burnout to balance was teaching her to see herself. And both journeys, she was learning, were necessary for a life fully lived. Spring arrived with a gentleness that matched the changes in Maya's life. Eleanor came home from the hospital in late March, still using a walker but determined to regain her independence. Maya helped coordinate a schedule of visitors and helpers, not doing it all herself this time, but organizing others who wanted to pitch in. Mrs. Washington brought meals twice a week. Mr. Torres from the community center came by to keep Eleanor company and play cards. Catherine hired a home health aide for the days when no one else could be there. Maya visited twice a week, their comfortable rhythm restored. They'd have tea. Eleanor would share stories from physical therapy, and they'd work on the garden together now that the weather was warming. Eleanor supervised from a chair while Maya did the planting, following her instructions on where each flower should go. "You know," Eleanor said one afternoon as Maya patted soil around a cluster of daisies, "I've been thinking about something. When I first fell, I was terrified of being a burden. I didn't want to need help. I wanted to handle everything myself. And now?" Maya asked, sitting back on her heels. "Now I understand that letting people help me is a gift I give them. You learn to set boundaries and take care of yourself. I learned to accept help and let go of the need to always be the strong one. We're teaching each other," Maya smiled. "We make a good team." "The best," Eleanor agreed. At school, things had shifted in ways Maya couldn't have imagined months ago. Her essay about loneliness and connection had been selected for the school's literary magazine, and Mrs. Patterson had encouraged her to read it at the Spring Arts Showcase. The thought terrified Maya, but she'd learned that courage wasn't the absence of fear. It was doing things despite the fear. The night of the showcase, the auditorium was packed. Maya stood backstage, her hands shaking as she clutched her printed essay. Zara gave her a hug for luck. Marcus squeezed her shoulder. Even Jessica, who'd become a surprising friend over the past months, whispered, "You've got this." When her name was called, Maya walked onto the stage. The lights were bright, but she could make out faces in the crowd. Her parents sat in the third row, her mother holding her father's hand. Daniel had driven home from college for this. Eleanor sat near the front in her wheelchair, beaming. Mr. Chen and his kids waved at her. Several seniors from the community center had come. Janet gave her a thumbs up.